Thank you, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to fiscal year 27 budget workshop. I did want to just provide just some housekeeping real quick, that tonight there will not be a public comment component of during these workshops. Again, these sessions are designed to provide the council with the opportunity to focus on discussions with each of the department heads regarding their 27 budget, addressing any concerns and forecasting needs for the future. We do appreciate and look forward to feedback and invite all residents to participate in the public hearing that we do have scheduled, which is going to be on Thursday, April 23rd at 6 p.m. right here in these chambers. So with that, yeah, I mean, here we are. Well, welcome everybody to this session. Again, this is a budget workshop. There are no votes taken here tonight. You know, we will, like in any workshop, we will poll for consensus for any guidance to the administration of anything that you want to see for the next time or and whatnot. So that'll be up to you to make those determinations. We've got some work to do, but you know, again, this is, well, friends here. We're all just working through this, and we'll figure it out. So with that, I will turn it over to Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello again. Thank you, everybody. As was said in the intro right there, this is the first of the budget workshops, and as such, what you have before you is the first time that we've had a public discussion about this year's budget, but it has been out in the public for just a little bit so far, and both the mayor and myself had some memos at the forefront of this document, and I'll just briefly highlight those to kick us off. This should be considered a preliminary budget. I know it says proposed in some of the columns, but I say that because it's a starting point. It's not where I foresee, or any of us probably foresee, us ending up for various reasons. And it's a working budget. So together with working with our department leaders and also you all, now that it's in your hands as the council, we can work together to try to find where we want to land now that we have a starting point. I want to outline some of the primary cost drivers that are starting us where we are. And the big takeaway, not to bury the lead here, is it's a challenging budget year. Some of those reasons are, you know, partially in the city's control, but many of them are largely not. And some of those are, there are personnel-related cost increases, and approximately 1.9 million year over year of personnel-related labor costs. And those are the sum of many different things, including contractual wage obligations that were earlier staffing decisions in prior years, but now we have to honor many of those, if not all of them, depending on which positions we're talking about. And that is an increase to the budget compared to last year. Another one is debt service growth. A couple years ago, the last time bond was taken out, when you initially take it out, there's not a payment. The next year, it was only interest only, so now it's principal and interest. And although old debt does fall off or decrease over time, the net increase is what we're seeing this year because of that newest bond from a couple years ago, adding more than was falling off from the older years. Another big one, as I alluded to, that was out of our control, and we just found out quite recently. Every year the state projects what they're expecting for revenue and then what each municipality's share is likely to be based on the percentages of their formulas. When we were initially starting the budget in the early stages weeks ago, we were, you know, assuming that it might be about the same revenue sharing, because that's a fair assumption to start with, not too modest or too hopeful. But when we finally got the number quite recently, it's been noted that it's projected for a $500,000 decrease in state revenue sharing. And this is just projections. We won't know, because that's just based on their calculations of expectations. But we shouldn't include more than that, certainly in the budget. So that or less would be the way to go. So we reduced what we were carrying in the early iterations of the budget, and what is now in front of you accounts for that $500,000 reduction that we intend, are likely to get from the state compared to last year. The next one is a continued reliance on $1.75 million in fund balance. In an earlier iteration of the budget, there was a contemplation of using a larger amount to the tune of $2.75 million. And in prior years, I've seen that such large numbers were used at times, and that is a resource available if it's above the policy amount of at least 12% compared to the full budget. But in dialogue with the mayor and city staff, we realized that it likely is not a sustainable path to keep using the highest amount that we can. It's a choice, of course, that can be made, but rather than do that, scaling back a full $1 million to match last year's is where we're starting this. So not any increase in use, but also not a decrease yet. That's a multi-year consideration, because if you use more and more each year, it may deplete it. So you have to be mindful of that. So the starting point is contemplating using $1.75 million from that use of fund balance. And then the last one, that's a primary cost driver, is the county assessment has also increased. We don't know that till quite late in the process, and we were planning on maybe a 4% increase. That or a 5% might have been a good number to carry, but you truly don't know what the county's budget will be until they tell you. And right now, although it may not be passed, what they've told us to plan on would be a 15% increase, which is exceeding $200,000 increase over last year's ask from the county. One other note, that this budget does carry estimates of the school budget. When they come before you in future workshop, they may have more fine-tuned, perhaps even final numbers, but we did not have that at the time of the budget creation. So we used reasonable estimates. So that could go up or down for the net for the schools. We will find out. But the total citywide budget impact of this preliminary budget you have in front of you is a net budget increase of municipal school county of 14.82%, and that will be seen on the summary page, and that's year-over-year budget. As noted, in the memos, there is, the mayor and I both stated that we have a commitment to finding reductions in efficiencies to try to maintain fiscal responsibility. So if we are to try to reach the $1 million in reductions on the municipal-only side, if that were to occur, we could express, instead of the city component going up a full 25%, only by 13.68%. And then the overall city net budget, instead of 14.82%, would be 10.5% approximately. And then when you factor in, new value in the community and other smaller factors that change year to year, like the overlay, that would mean that if we were to be able to reduce by that amount, if it's the will of the council, we would have a tax rate increase below 10%. That's still high in some people's minds, but that's what's in front of you, and we can get to the specifics of the tax rate, which will just be estimates now at this time. So, one other thing I wanted to note is, no matter what the end result of this budget year is, in light of the fact that we're seeing some fiscal numbers increase, and we can't count on state or county to, as it's out of our hands, for what it would be year to year, I view this as a multi-year approach. I can't speak for other prior city managers, but I'm committed to looking strategically over time about how we can address some of the fiscal concerns or find more efficiencies over time, whether or not it's all achieved in this first year. And one other thing I wanted to note is there will be, each department has been tasked with coming up with, if you will, a percentage of the $1 million ask. And that's in the packet of papers I gave you. And that's the, let's see, the middle one that's got blue at the header. And anything I've just given to the council, we can certainly make more publicly available. It's just ready now, and we can spread it out to others in due time, so they'll have sight of this as well. But that page, I view it as a modeling exercise. It's not to belittle the numbers here, but rather to say this is a contemplation of one way you could look at finding $1 million. The percentage of either the operating, so just expenditures, or to the right, the net would be another way to look at it, expenditures and revenues, just to level out the options for how to look at it. I foresee that some departments might be able to meet or exceed the number here, but it may be at a cost of service delivery. So when the time comes for departments to be able to speak to those, we can address what specific cuts might entail and how much we can stand behind them or not. And then furthermore, some of the smaller departments might only be very minimal in just staffing, so it might be quite hard for them to come up with even the number here, even if it's minimal. So in the meantime, myself and the finance director and city leadership, we get a look at other numbers as well, not just departmentally. So there's other opportunities to make up the difference if it's the will of the council to find that level of cuts, which is a decision that needs to be made one way or the other. In this packet that I alluded to, and which will be shared later, the first page after the leading page is an early stage tax rate calculation, if you will. I believe the prior interim manager, Cornell, was into sharing this kind of analysis, and I think it's healthy to share not only what the budget is year over year, because that's very important, we're talking about the budget, but how does the end result impact the taxpayers? And there's a couple other numbers that are different than the budget proper. Specifically, I called out the fact that TIF and overlay at the time of budget adoption are slightly different. They're estimated, and at the time of tax commitment, they do change from the adopted budget, and that's true in every municipality. So that's one difference. But then the other difference would be the city valuation. There's projected to be an increase, both due to new construction and perhaps some tax exempt properties becoming taxable. This is very rough estimate. I don't want to hold the assessor to this number, but it is something we can contemplate as part of the rationale for a tax rate increase being less than the budget increase. So just quickly state on this first page, if we have no changes where we are now in the budget in front of you, with all those factors, we might see a tax rate increase of approximately 12%. So that'd be going from a 17 mill rate to a 19 mill rate. And then for a median home, the bill could increase 12%, so $459. I wanted the next page would say, if we were to be able to and choose to cut $1 million in reductions from the city budget and everything else were to remain the same, which may or may not on the school side, that would be reduced from that 12% down to below 8%, 7.8% tax rate increase, and a less of a bill increase to the tune of $300 for the median home value. This is just a starting point. As additional numbers and changes occur, we can revisit this, but I think taxpayers would want to know and be able to apply the mill rate, which in this instance would be 18.34, not 19. They'd want to know the implications for their taxes, so we'll revisit that at future meetings once we're at the point of contemplating reductions. See, one last page in this packet that was given. It was because it was requested by some people in the community, and also it was provided to the mayor at an earlier date, the number of FTEs by department over time. There's a couple iterations of this that we can share more broadly, but I wanted the council to all have it. And this outlines by department the number of increases in personnel or decreases in personnel over time. There's probably many good reasons for these choices by prior administrations, prior councils, and some of them are a little bit more complicated because there is restructuring of different departments. So it might not be a department went from 4 to 1, it might be 3 of those went to a different type of department when it was restructured. So we can certainly speak to those, but it was important to see that the numbers have increased, but in many instances, perhaps all, there was reasons for those increases, and we can speak to those and when we get to that point of each departmental discussion. I've probably spoken quite enough for now, and we'll want to get to the departments, I want to let you know that I've given the departments that speaking tonight the option of not having to speak to their cuts, although they may if they're ready to at least bring up ideas for what they're looking into. And I say that for them tonight specifically because it's been a very quick turnaround time of getting this new information, contemplating cuts, and giving them that direction. So to whatever extent they're willing to share their preliminary thoughts on examples of what cuts they might be looking into, that's very helpful. But it will be in future meetings that we'll get more concrete with the actual line items and numbers, which likely won't be tonight for the most part. But we are committed to working on finding those changes we can. So one last note that I would like to relay is, perhaps the mayor already said it too, but this is the council's budget now. It's not to say you're alone in it, but we're looking for guidance, direction, questions, as much as you're willing and able. We know that you're the ultimate passers or not of this budget, and you want to have a say, and this is your time to let us know what we should be doing. I'm happy to take questions.
I haven't done this before, but what kind of guidance has the council typically given in the past? Have we said, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, estimated tax bill change of $302. Does the council ever give you a target, like keep it under 200? Or does the council give you a percentage saying, you know, a restriction?
I'll let others speak for Waterville, but in other communities I've worked in, there are instances in which they say, please try to achieve a tax rate increase of this percentage. They're not usually dollar amounts for a tax bill because your home might be a different value than someone else's, so it's usually try to stay in this range of tax rate increase if you can without reducing too many services, and let us know the impacts if we are to go that route. Right now, the number contemplated is $1 million in cuts, and that may seem somewhat arbitrary because it's just a very round number. But to reiterate, that was brought about by discussions with the mayor and senior staff about the use of fund balance prior being contemplated at 2.75 and then being reduced back to 1.75 million, which it was last year. So that's the $1 million rationale, which approximately lines up with the 700,000 or plus or minus that we got bad news about recently.
Part of my concern is I don't have any way of looking into the future, and I don't know. Do we need to consider setting ourselves up for some future situation where we might have more money coming in or less, or, you know, what are your?
It is wise to take a multi-year future approach and not just think of this year in isolation, certainly. But how you choose to go about that and which questions you ask of the staff to help guide that understanding is up to you as well. Any of the prior members of the council want to chime in for Waterville and your process?
I know that in my experience that like I don't know if it was last budget or the budget before that, but we listen to the department heads, and basically it's kind of they present their budget, and then we ask questions on essentially what they can either do without, what they need more of, and it's kind of a conversation back and forth after the presentation when we ask questions. I do know that, and again, I don't remember when it was. It might have been last year or the year before that, when we asked for the then city manager to provide us, what to cut in the budget, and I believe we received that, those numbers, but it was. I mean, if I remember correctly, it wasn't that much, so.
I know that in at least the previous year, mill rate was kind of the thing that we had strived to achieve when we were talking about how much things were going to cost. It was the mill rate adjustment was kind of like the number that we were and moving up and down a bit, as that's kind of more broadly applicable to the city as a whole.
So in this case, that would be moving from a 2 mil increase to a 1 mil increase with $1 million in reduction.
Approximately,
Cost.
in
Right?
what was contemplated here, it was a little less than a full mill reduction.
Okay.
In these
Right.
instances, it was 1904 down to 1834. And that is using estimates only. I don't want these to carry
Right.
so much value because they may change.
Right, we do have to remind people that the mill rate isn't ever set until August after the
Right.
budget is created, but it's our best guess, right?
Correct.
Personally, I mean, I think the mill rate goal is one that's easy for people to understand. And so I don't know if that $1 million needs to be increased a little bit, but certainly I would like to try to get to where we're at a mill at the very max. I can't imagine going past that. So I don't know what other people feel. And of course, we've got to look at the realities before us as well, but good to have a goal.
I like it.
And you can certainly reevaluate as you hear more based on, new information coming in, so. Yeah.
Where I'm coming from is, again, worry about the future. When we went through the last cycle and we talked about EMS, I was concerned about the future. I'm still concerned about it. I'd like to think that the economy is going to keep growing, that the Medicare cuts that are coming are not going to hit us, and so on and so forth. But I drive by the gas station and, that's got to have an impact on the budget cycle. And so we might want to err on the side of caution, given I don't think it's out of the ordinary to say that there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now. So that's something to keep in the back of our heads. Thank you.
In addition to the cuts or reductions or efficiencies, new revenues, et cetera, that you could contemplate with our help providing those options, there is also the use of fund balance at your disposal. The policy states above 12%, you should be willing and able to use that as you think is fit. But the starting point is we put the same as last year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So when you referenced the amount last year, was that before or after the error that was found and some was put back?
After, so the final,
Okay.
after that
I just
was
couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anything else for Nick at this, any other questions about the process or anything? Yeah, Councilor Green.
Well, I thought maybe you could elaborate on your comment in your memo about reserve funds and how that might factor into the discussion.
I'm sorry, reserve funds? You say reserve.
Are you talking about the 2.7 million?
No,
Oh, the reserve accounts?
sorry, yeah, the reserve accounts.
Yeah. No, so, well, I mean, I think, and this kind of came from a discussion or comment that we had about we have all these reserve accounts that are out there that the departments pull from, and we see things not in totality, but in what is happening in this department. And, and I guess we can ask ourselves, is that if this was an umbrella approach, would that be the best use of that fund? Or is there something else that is needed in someplace else that doesn't have a reserve fund that, would require that? So that was the point there, is to take a look at whether or not the process in which we're doing that now you know, continues to make sense. But, so, I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you know,
Right,
You know what I mean? And there's pros and cons to either way. You know, I think when you look at, you know, fund balance, you know, at the end of the year, and we actually have a fund balance policy. And if you read it, we're not following it. But, but it does allow for the use of, at the end of the year, once you have this fund balance, or you can set money aside into reserve accounts, you know, for capital projects or things of that nature that we know that are going to come down the pipe. And so, I mean, that's another option to continue to keep these types of accounts, but just fund them a different way. So, yeah.
There will be opportunities for further clarification on the nature of those accounts and why they are targeted funds that were generated for a targeted purpose. And the finance director at a later date will be able to help you with those so you can understand what each of them are, if you're so inclined.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I completed the list of the project codes today with the grants segregated out and the capital accounts with the reserves. And I know that some people refer to it that way, but I want to clarify that the vast majority of the money that went into the reserve accounts, the capital accounts, are not taxpayer dollars. They are not general fund revenues. They are targeted. They came from, say, if you put money in a bond for public works equipment and the bids came in $20,000 less, and you bought that, those were specific that was to go to public works equipment. So that $20,000 is then transferred from the bond to that line and reserved for that because that's its intended purpose. There are many, many of them that are that way. I can think of probably 3 or 4 that might be revenue-based.
And those are the ones I was talking about.
That are not targeted.
Right.
Well, I know that we had this discussion. I just want it clearly understood because it sounds like to people maybe out there that we're putting this money aside that could be used for reducing taxes and things.
fair.
What it could be used for is if there was something within a budget that was increasing the budget, that was a piece of equipment or a facility repair, and that is what those funds were targeted for, then the reserve account could be utilized, but just as a general. So I will provide the full list with the amounts that are in there, the balances. It's done. I just want to make the presentation with Nate that we had talked about. So, yes, Rebecca?
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's a really good point, that obviously there are reserve accounts that are restricted in the sense they can only be used for certain things. And they didn't, like you say, they weren't taxpayer dollars originally, but I think we should be looking at ways to balance our planning for capital projects and maintenance, et cetera, planning, with also a consideration to whether some of our regular budget items can be paid for from those reserve accounts. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think I know what you're saying, but there's not much of those in the budgets, and there's been no appropriation for capital planning or money raised through taxation for capital planning.
Right.
They just don't put money into an account that should be going in there for ongoing maintenance and repairs, which is the reason why I tied it to the additional interest earnings above and beyond what has been included in the budget, is because some years you may not get that interest. And if you bank on that as a revenue within your budget, it creates a hole. And it can, if interest rates change rapidly, it can create a $400,000 or $500,000 hole. that you don't have, that then takes away your fund balance and you're in trouble the following year. So
Okay.
when we negotiated the rate, I made the proposal that anything above that amount is then utilized for the capitals, so that you can pick things off that list, but it's not being raised through taxation, and if you don't have it, you just don't do those projects. So, but we'll get into that more,
Okay,
unless you have something.
sure. No,
Some direction that I would like to see, and I'm confident that you have at least gone down this route at least a little bit, is taking a look through our budget and finding lines where it is software rentals or like rentals of property or tools or things like that, and looking at the cost to actually purchase those outright and then shift those costs, even if it costs more upfront, that will save us money in the long run in many circumstances. And I know that looking through this, I have seen many rental lines, and some of those aren't things that we can purchase outright, but some of them probably are. And taking a look at that might save us some money in the long run.
I know also that during our collective safety meetings and discussions, we've also talked about developing a list of service contracts that are consistent across the city for elevator inspections, for some of the fire inspections and things, because departments are using different companies, getting different travel calls because they're coming on different days. They may be traveling out of Bangor or Portland. Whereas if we had one company, they could come up and do 3 or 4 inspections in a day and schedule it in that manner. And you'd get the one travel and get the benefit of negotiating for all your buildings. So we are looking at developing that list and trying to save some money in those areas.
All right.
I believe the first department up is finance.
Not really a coincidence, Katrina.
I thought it was customer service. Did they change it? Oh, okay. That's me. Well, I didn't do very good on my list of making cuts. I will look at it a little bit more before the final tally. I've been kind of focused on the budget as a whole and some other things. I will say the finance department has very little. We have 4 personnel that are full-time with benefits. We do have some other amounts in there. Is everybody still looking, or can you find the, I see them flopping. Maybe I should wait. So I do try to get as much revenue as I can. We do take in somewhere, I do pass through grants for the state. I charge an administrative fee out to that. I do build the Brownfields grant for administrative time for me in the processing of checks and drawdowns. Of course, some of the grants, they only allow you to charge to a certain amount. But, so when you see in my line, professional service fees, those are what I estimate to bill out on the grants that we are currently doing. And that will change depending on how many grants we process for outside agencies and do the administrative pieces, and that allow for any administration. But that's where that money comes from. Like I said, under the bottom, I don't have much except those 4 positions, which consist of the finance director, the accountant, the tax collector, and your payroll specialist. Those are the 4 positions. So I don't know if I had to cut one, where I could possibly cut without severe impacts. Some of our supply lines, you'll see office supplies is 4,000 and some of the others, but we buy all the paper for the whole building. Under finance, that's just the way that it's been done. some of the other departments pay for the postage, or Joel's department pays for software. It's just been that. So we have a larger fee than you would expect for supplies, but it's because we're paying for all the paper. And we also have large postage fees, mailing some of the stuff because of the tax billing. And we have to pay, obviously, to send all those out, and also the certifieds and the liens and the things at the registry. So I really don't have those options to cut in those areas. So if anybody has any good suggestions, please let me know. I will review it again to see if there's any place that I can comfortably cut without affecting certifications of those individuals at their trainings. But
If I'm reading correctly, though, Christina, it's like 1% increase, pretty,
it is a 1.1% increase to the finance department for this year. I try very hard to be the lowest number coming in for a
appreciate
budget
it,
number, to set an example. But if you really want me to try to cut 16, I will, but I just don't know where.
I see that the Registry of Deeds, line 44, has fluctuated quite a lot over the last couple of years. What is the cause of the fluctuation on that so much?
The registry has increased their recording fees. So everything that we send over there for liens and discharges have gone up per page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that training is super important, but that is one of the other areas that's increased. I'm just curious if there are more certifications people need, or?
Well, there are certain certifications and trainings that people should be going to.
Yeah.
There are some of us that have not utilized them in certain years because of staff coverage. Others of us that have been doing this a long time and tend to say, yeah, we can get by without the training. My concern with that is, if you know the staff, we have several significant within the finance department that are looking to retire, or can retire now, or will retire within the next 2 or 3 years. So I think maybe 3 out of 4 people.
And are you anticipating that, like, people getting done, and that's why the
I
training and
think there
workshops?
will be, there's certain ones that we need to be certified in, and training. I think new people coming in are going to have to go to some of those trainings and be
Yep.
certified.
Okay.
And I offset that as much as possible with funds from the TIF. So it doesn't impact the taxes. I put more TIF money into that because we process the TIF CEAs, we process the reimbursements to know about them and how they work and the percentages that go back, and to watch that. I feel very comfortable saying that finance has a big piece to play in the TIFs and the payments on there. So I put a lot of it under there. I think I put $3,500. I'll go look, the page before. Actually, I put $4,500 of the training under the TIF funds to cover. So there's $500 that comes from the taxation piece.
Any other questions for Christina? Thank you, ma'am. All right. Next up, we have what, customer service?
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi. So, my department is still fairly new. We've only been doing it for a year, customer service. I did go over some of our budget numbers and tried to see where I can cut some numbers here. So there was certain things here, hold on, there we go. We did ask for more in training and workshops due to myself going to the Munis training this year, so that's higher. But we are looking to maybe decrease every other year depending on travel training and who wants to attend these trainings. Things like equipment maintenance or office equipment, we don't really have anything. It's more of IT. So I did look at cutting numbers in those areas. Other than that, I mean, like I said, it's still brand new, so.
What, just line 36 in travel expenses? I mean, that seems like a significant jump. Can you elaborate on the
So that was
travel
due
expense?
to the Munis training. So finance was nice enough to give us money for that. It's only one person going to training, myself, this year.
Okay.
So that's why it bumped up, but there is room to decrease for next year.
Okay.
And then maybe every other year go up or down.
And like finance, that's coming from the TIF?
Yes.
There's a portion of training money that's going to every department from the TIF for workforce training. So we try to portion it out, but some departments get more because of how much they work with the actual TIF. So.
And just to note, this department is at negative 1.3%
Yeah.
for the folks at home. So that's, admirable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just showing me up.
Sorry. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
This is on? Yes,
now.
okay. All right, let me get squared up here. So, if we could begin on page 42, if everyone's there. So what I'd like to do, if that's okay with everybody, is go through our budgets and then, answer any questions along the way that you may or may not have. And then when we're through, Nick and I will present a couple ideas that we have in terms of cuts. Does that work for everybody? And just stop me as I go. I made some highlights on things that I think were notable. So just as a summary, the Public Works Department has 24 full-time employees, 4 in admin, 10 equipment operators, 7 laborers, and 3 mechanics. We have 5 different departments, operations and maintenance. That's the bulk of them. We call it O&M. They're responsible for, the heavy lifting work, the roads, sidewalks, streetlights, traffic signals, drainage issues, street painting, street sweeping, culverts, all that type of, all those types of things. We have traffic maintenance, so over the last couple of years, we've subbed out some of our street painting, but we also do a fair amount of it ourselves, so we think that that's the most efficient. So we do paint streets in the spring and summer. Facility maintenance, that's all of our buildings, not just the buildings within our compound, but all city buildings. I think most people here know Mike Folsom. He's our jack of all trades. He goes around and works with all the departments on repairs. And then we have fleet maintenance. Those are our mechanics. We have 1 lead foreman and 3 full-time mechanics that also service, all city equipment, not just Public Works. Okay. So, again, please stop me, right? You will if you have questions. So there aren't a lot of changes in the Public Works budget other than labor, like Nick mentioned before. The Teamsters Union, which represents both Public Works and Parks and Recreation, negotiated a contract last year. with some increases that I think are very fair. I'm very happy that that contract was passed. It's made, well, it's helped with morale for one, and we're optimistic that it will help us with hiring in the future. So yeah, most of the increases in public works will be labor and benefits. So I'm on page 43 now. There are a lot of lines in this budget, so I'm not going to go line by line. So if we go down to line 81 on page 43, this is going to come up a few times throughout the public works budget, the overtime lines. You'll see, yeah. Oh, darn, I was,
Unless you're on page 42.
Yeah, we're on 40.
okay. I was afraid that might happen, but if it's just one page, okay, good.
I think the line.
The line is still the same, yeah.
Yeah,
The line works.
Oh, the lines are the
Yeah,
same?
just tell us the line.
Okay, good, okay, good. So, yeah, like I said, each of the departments within Public Works, the overtime line is going to be inaccurate in many cases. So the actual you see of nearly $14,000, that number, that amount is going to be transferred over to O&M. All of that time has been spent on plowing this winter. And I'll get to some statistics on the active winter that we had when I'm through with this portion. So that's an increase there that will go away. So that will essentially zero out that line. Moving along to line 94 within fleet maintenance. This is our mechanic garage in Bay. We are proposing to increase that budget this year by $10,000. It's really based on the actuals that we've seen over the last few years. We think that's warranted. We definitely anticipate some repairs above and beyond this coming year. While our equipment was new and in good shape 5 or 6 years ago, it's beginning to show its age. So we did bump that line up, along with the tires and tubes line by $5,000, which is line 96. We eliminated line 102, radios and communication equipment, so that will help. Moving along to the pay-as-you-throw program, city refuse revenue, our host fee. So if we want to make adjustments, Nick and Christina will make those adjustments tonight in terms of revenues. Is that correct? We're prepared. We feel comfortable with. There are some adjustments that we can make upward on revenues. So, is this the time and place to do that?
Would that be increasing the cost of the purple trash bags?
No.
No, okay.
But I do have some information I would like to share with that too. So yeah, would
Feel
we?
free to speak to whatever
Okay,
you like.
so we had budgeted $85,000 in revenue for host fee. I'm confident that we'll see $90,000 this year, and we're comfortable budgeting $90,000 next year. So the host fee is what Capital Transfer pays us to hold their facility in the city of Waterville for all of the miscellaneous infrastructure that they used, taking advantage of the city that we have and all of the, the roads and everything that we offer. So both $90,000 this year and $90,000 next. So pay as you throw bag revenue also, we can increase this year. We expect $350,000, and we can budget $350,000 next year as well. And these are things I can get with you on, Christina, after to confirm. Yep.
Matt, how are you able to say that as far as the bags go? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry?
That's a good jump with the bags. How are you able to say that?
Well, we got our data from, Waste Zero. As far as our revenue going up, that's what we expect there. It's trending upward. Yeah, so we were happy to see that. Yep. Very confident. I'm almost assured that we'll meet that 350. If you go back to FY25, we were right around that figure too. So it's not too far off. And then city refuse labor costs, you'll see it all the way through the increases, typically up between 15% and 20%. Moving on to city refuse collection operating costs. Not many changes here. We're under contract now with both Waste Zero for the Purple Bag Program and Capital through June of '27, so our tipping fees and our recycling fees are the same. Waste Zero contract, so we moved the Waste Zero contract over, well, it just shows, Christina, this year as being the first full year, correct? The Waste Zero contract as an expense. It had previously been taken out of the revenue, so the revenue we got from pay-as-you-throw was all we got. There wasn't an expense. There was an expense, but it was taken out of the revenues, if you understand. Do you need me to elaborate on that? I can try. I mean, or you can, Christina.
They just reduced the cost before they paid us. So the revenue side showed as less coming in because we didn't pay out for the service.
Yep, thank you. So operations and maintenance, again, that's our biggest department, 13 full-time employees. Overtime, so this is an overtime line the actual right now is roughly 51,000. That number will jump significantly by $35,000 to $40,000 because we're taking fleet, we're taking facility maintenance, we're taking traffic management. All of those overages are going to come over to this for accurate accounting. So they're the same people that work, for example, within traffic management, facility maintenance, and fleet. They're the staff that we have. But in the winter months, the priority is plowing, so they have their CDL licenses, so they plow. But we have a new executive assistant, so she just pulled those numbers from the existing budgets that they're in, but it really should go to operations and maintenance because it accurately reflects what they're doing in the winter months. But the net at the end of the year, I feel, will be safe. Will be relatively safe. A little bit over, though, because this was a very active winter, very. Down to operations and maintenance operating costs, you'll see one of the largest line items is catch basins. The Waterville Sewage Department, slight increase there, but up about $6,000. Road maintenance. This is for all of the materials that we need to repair and take care of our road and sidewalk infrastructure. So last year it was 220, but we decided to split it up so we could keep a separate line for road paving projects. So we put 125 in road maintenance, and we put 125 on line 168 for road paving.
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
For catch basins, it is a very substantial amount of cost for catch basins. Is that due to maintenance within the catch basins of just the upkeep cost for them, or is there ongoing kind of reinstallation, or I'm not exactly sure like what that
It's
entails.
both. Yeah, it's their program to repair what they have, but it's also for the ongoing maintenance. That's how that works, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
If we can go to line 130, the annual bulky waste pickup. Now, that's $35,000. I understand it's kind of 52 to 34 and 35. Now, is that something that we need to do? Okay.
I think that would have been one of the items that Nick and I would propose. We're going on the third or fourth year in a row with that program. So in my opinion, I don't believe in bulky waste pickup needs to be done every year, so it's reasonable to consider that. And to get into a routine or a schedule for every other year, every third year. It was very heavy the first few years, of course. It's gonna go down. But it's still, even with the less tonnage, I don't think that it's entirely necessary to do a bulky waste pickup every year. It's a huge lift on our department too, because we pretty much have to shut down everything else that we're doing, including our parks employees. Everybody gets on board. So, right, that's something that we could consider.
Okay.
Yep.
we look at what it would cost to have a third party do something like that as well, as compared to us having to shut down absolutely everything to go do that? I don't know if that would necessarily save us money, but it could save us some of the, like, reusing our own employees to do it.
We could. We haven't done that, but we could. Yep, certainly. So moving along, within the operations and maintenance, you'll see landfill maintenance. That's our former landfill out on the Webb Road. Has gone up. We have a contract with Haley Ward by $3,700, so that's an increase there. That's state required. I don't think we have many options there. Traffic management, this is our streetlights and traffic signals. Again, if you note line 183, the overtime line, that number will be transferred over to operations and maintenance overtime. Other than that, not many changes. Down to traffic management operating costs. There are a few discrepancies that I met with Christina on, and what I would like to do is move some of these funds around within this budget with the net being exactly the same. I can explain if you'd like, but I think it might be a little bit confusing. Does that sound acceptable?
Can you cliff note it?
Yeah, well, the traffic signal maintenance, we budgeted 40,000. I'd like to trim that by 20 because that's really all we need, and add that to miscellaneous supplies. Miscellaneous supplies is not a great title, and I've talked to Christina about that. I think we've since changed it. It's paint. We need to buy paint. So $20,000 from traffic signal maintenance will go into that paint line. And then the last line in that budget, painting and striping, we have a contract. We went out to bid, presented that to you folks back a couple months ago. It's for roughly $60,000. So I'd like to propose taking 10 from that and moving that also into paint. That will give us just what we need to purchase paint. So the net will be the same. Yeah, that's what it would equal. Right. Moving on to facility maintenance. Again, this is our carpenter, electrician, plumber, the overtime line.
Matt, I apologize.
Yeah, sure.
Just to clarify, so the paint.
Right.
Right? Like, what are we painting? What is the paint for?
The center lines, fog lines, citywide.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is that painting different than the painting and striping line?
That's the subcontract that we sub out
Okay.
for. That's the
So
handwork.
internal versus-
Correct.
okay.
That's right. Crosswalks, parking stalls, arrows, stop bars. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. You bet. So back to facility maintenance, the overtime line will be zeroed out and move into operations and maintenance. We did bump up also in this budget part-time wages. This is for custodial work that will, there will be more work this year because we'll be opening the bathrooms on North Street this spring. It includes all of our compound buildings, our admin building, North Street bathroom, and the Pine Ridge bathroom. Then facility maintenance operating costs. Not many changes. I don't see any changes here. We went down in miscellaneous supplies, line 226, from 20 to 15.
And is that a good title for that, or is that not paint? What is that would be?
Well, for that budget, Mayor, I think it is because it could be plumbing supplies, electrical supplies.
Okay.
Carpentry, yeah, wood, lumber.
Sure.
So just a few notes on the public work budget that I think are worth sharing. This winter, we had 26 storm events total. On average, an average winter, we have 16 to 18, so markedly more. Of the 26, 12 occurred. It was uncanny, really. 12 of them occurred on weekends or holidays, and 9 of them lasted more than a day. So there was a lot. The crew was very busy this winter. It was costly. We feel comfortable with the material, the salt and sand that we used, but the overtime numbers they'll reflect an overall overage of, like I said before, between $30,000 and $40,000 total overage on overtime. So there was that, and then let's see, pay as you throw. So I do have some numbers, just food for thought. If we were to increase the bag fee by $1, so per ordinance, I'm going to say it was 10 years ago now. I wasn't the Public Works Director at the time. There was a schedule to raise the pay-as-you-throw bag fees $1 each year. We got up to the $14 mark, but we didn't go to 15. And I'm not proposing, that we do this, but it's just food for thought. So if we did raise the bags by $1, I have it here. That's not the one. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. I had it right here. Okay, so this year, right, our anticipated revenue this year, here on this sheet, is $355,000. If we were to raise the bags by $1, our revenue would be closer to $390,000. So 55, 65, 75, 85, 95, over $40,000 in additional revenue if we were to bump the bags up by $1.
And well, the small bags are $13 currently. And so it would go to 14. I just looked at my receipt.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's correct, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. 13 to 14, correct. You got it. Okay, so that's Public Works.
Do you think that would have like a negative reaction in regards to the purple trash bags being increased? Just because, I mean, if people hear that they're being increased in price, then they're going to go, I mean, there are no pun intended, a pile of waste removal companies that, you know, when you kind of throw it out there at a monthly expense, could be far less than the purple trash bags and how much they cost.
Yeah, my opinion would be that it could negatively impact the number of people that use our program. Yeah. So again, I wasn't proposing it. I just felt it's fair to put it out there.
Something to ponder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my immediate thought too, when you said it was the sort of, the negative, not to mention, you know, the common complaint you hear is the price goes up, the quality goes down. And so, I think we already have enough of all these others, and I think it's kind of risky.
It's not the best place to look for revenue, I don't think
Well,
right
the
now.
amount of use, the amount of tonnage we would pay for would also go down, though, correct? Because we wouldn't be collecting as much.
Yeah, so
I
that
mean,
would
at the
offset
end-
some.
At the end of the day, like, we wouldn't be collecting as much trash as we would.
Because, I mean, what it boils down to, and I'm using the sheet that the city managers provided, the total amount of cuts specifically with Public Works, and I understand this isn't an ironclad number, this is just, it's a number on a piece of paper, was $182,976. Now, getting rid of the bulky waste pickup, that's $35,000 that we could save. I mean, that's a pebble into an ocean for the 182. So, I mean, increasing the bags, I mean, that's a conversation that we can have in regards to increasing that. But I just think that I know that there's a lot of frustration with the purple trash bags, as Councilor Hart said. I mean, the quality is, again, I'm full of puns today, garbage. So I'm just worried. I mean, that's obviously something we can consider, but that's just something that we need to take into consideration if we were to implement such a price change.
So before we move on to parks, Nick, do you want to share what our ideas were for the cuts
Yes.
in addition to the bulky waste?
Certainly, and I may end up passing off to Christina as well. So one, you already heard of, was the bulky waste. I think that's a very serious one for next year, but I'd like to note that still hasn't happened this year, so it's something to contemplate that perhaps could make up for the overtime that was experienced, but then it would be 2 years in a row not having it. That is something that we need to decide in the short term. So far, residents have been told it's tentative to date because we knew the budget constraints. So that's something you can contemplate and let me know your thoughts at your earliest convenience, but bulky waste for next year, I think, should be on our cut list, whether or not this year is also. And then another one that I will likely pass off to Christina and Matt is there was some, we reviewed some monies that were set aside for paving projects in the TIF that were specifically trying to set aside matching funds for the CDS grant to try to add another pot of money to what we're receiving from the federal government. Upon reflection of the timing of when we'll receive the CDS funds and the lag time and the inability to take immediate action on those projects, even when we do get the money several months from now, Christina, Matt, and myself contemplated removing that from the TIF, those monies, and then removing some of the paving costs from the public works budget because it isn't within districts or servicing districts, and then offsetting a large chunk of money of paving in the public works budget with those TIF funds, which would be eligible. Would you like to add anything?
Do you have a number on that? Do we have a number?
It's 125. That's what's in the operating budget, so that would
125,000.
bring us close to 160 with the bulky waste.
You'll see it when it comes up to the TIF, that the full 125 would be removed from the paving line under Public Works and put through the TIF. And if he has money left at the end of the year, total within Public Works, after the coverage of the overtime and things, I won't propose line items because of the impacts of some of those others, like prior years, but I would suggest if there is money still available and money left from this year's paving, that it be added, grabbed before it goes to general fund balance, if there is some left, and be added to what can be done in the upcoming year, because it may be very minimal as far as what can be addressed paving. Even with those funds, we're hoping to get around 350, 400,000. And so maybe there'll be 50 or 75,000 left at the end of the year that can go forward to next year without increasing anything in next year's budget, so.
One other thing about paving, in the earliest iterations of the budget discussions, there was a number of roads that were considered for paving because they were on our annual list of things that should be addressed when possible, lining up with need or utilities working on those roads. It's already in the budget before you, scaling back on those for various reasons and contemplating waiting a year in which we may bond to do it at a later year, given the difficulties of this budget year. It also works out for some of those to wait because, for example, Temple Street, we're not going to necessarily go ahead and do that if we are waiting on Headed Falls Village to run construction vehicles over it. So there's alignment with things that make complete sense and some trying to have fiscal restraint, but I echo Christina's sentiment that if we can address paving needs, we should address high priority areas with the funds we have set aside to do so.
I would like to ask a question to play devil's advocate here for a moment. For the refuse collection, are we required to do that as a city of any sort? Is refuse collection part of our charter or anything like that? Does anybody know?
I can't speak to the charter, but I could speak anecdotally that I think in service center cities, it's an expectation, at least to some extent. You know, in more rural areas, it might not be, but
Sure.
Perhaps you already knew that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other, as kind of like building onto that, I do wonder what the cost savings would be or how it would be impacted if we looked at every other week picking up trash as opposed to every week or things like that, whether or not that would be a substantial change or because of how we have all this budgeted and how the laborers are paid and things like that, if that would not end up saving us a lot of money.
I don't know what it would do either if we did that. I'd have to.
Sure, absolutely. That wasn't necessarily a answer for now, but
Yeah.
thoughts to take a look at.
With regard to the bulk refuse collection, you're proposing that we go to a 2-year. And the assumption is that it would be cheaper over 2 years as opposed to back-to-back, year.
I think it would,
And
I don't
where would the
think people-
savings, I mean,
because we wouldn't be budgeting, say, $35,000, $40,000 each year. We'd only be budgeting it every other. And people, thinking of myself in my own home, I can't produce enough bulky waste to participate in a program like that every year. I don't think that I'd be able to do that. I don't know that everybody would. So I don't think the tipping fees would double if we were to do the program every 2 years. I'd be very surprised. if
now,
they did.
isn't this a relatively new thing?
Relatively new, yes, yeah.
And what
It
if we
had been roughly 20 years before we began doing it again 3 or 4 years ago. I should know if it was 3 or 4 years, but I'm not certain. It was one or the other. Yeah,
What
it's 3 or 4, yeah.
What are the implications if we were to stop it altogether?
It's very popular.
Yeah.
So people would be very disappointed if we made that determination that we were just going to stop doing it indefinitely. That would be one of the biggest implications. We would save, from that expense, but I do think it's a very valuable program that we do. We're proud to do it. It's just a heavy lift to do every single year.
Yeah, on that same note, can I just quickly add, I just want to voice that I don't think we should not do it this year. I think residents are planning, whether it's being told is tentative, I think people are already counting on it, so I don't feel comfortable taking out this year.
Yeah.
We do need to make
I
that
agree.
determination sooner than later because
Yeah.
it's set for the 3rd week in May. So I'll get with Nick early next week for that final determination from you folks, yeah.
Not to add more work to my already request that I've given you, but can we look at what the cost would be to do sections of the city for bulk pickup every year? Like, we'll say, like, this section of the city gets this year, and then next year, a different section of the city, kind of make it something that people can plan on and make it predictable, but at the same time still offer a bit of that every year, so it's not.
Maybe a ward breakdown?
Yeah, ward breakdown would be a good way to do it.
That is something that we had discussed. We didn't get very far with it, but that sounds like it could be a win-win. I'd have to think more about and meet with, our superintendent on what the ramifications would be, or if any, but that seems that like it could make a lot of sense. It would be less of a lift on our group. It would be less costly each year. And folks in different wards would know, they'd be able to plan that, it could be every 3rd year, if we split the city up into 3 different sections or something like that, yeah.
Well,
I
mean, if I have something to throw away and I have a friend in the ward that's
Right.
getting picked up, at the end of the day, is it going to save anything? That's kind of the reason we went to purple bags, right? So because there was the argument was that, hey, other people were putting trash in, they were carrying it from wherever they were carrying it, which seems kind of strange to me, but whatever. But that's kind of the reason that we went to if I understand, back in the day, we made these purple bags because of that fact. So, but.
I have kind of that same concern that the mayor just said too, that if you say it's going to be in 3 wards this year, then everybody's just going to drop off all their stuff in those 3 wards. And then we're not really saving or necessarily more efficient.
I like the idea of alternating years, though, because the 20 years was too long, and I believe the idea actually came from the Housing Committee, or at least Paula Raymond.
Yeah, it was.
And it's very helpful for people for whom it is a barrier to hire a truck to take bulky waste to the dump and pay for it. So I think it's a great service particularly for folks who can't easily make that expenditure. And the purple bag increase kind of falls in the same category for me because it is a regressive tax. It's easier for more wealthy people to pay that extra dollar than it is for lower income people. So I know it is a tempting chunk of change, but I would hold off. And also for the other reasons about reducing the use of city refuse.
Could I suggest something? Because I don't like budget spikes up and down. Sometimes you can't avoid them. But rather than to take it out fully, I would suggest putting half in this year into it in a reserve account and putting the next half with it in the year that you want to do the bulky waste pickup and stabilizing it at half the amount, but each year in the budget. So you don't have 35,000 added, 35,000 out, but you're contributing to it, and then you're making the decision that, yes, we're going to host it this year, we have the money.
I'm ready to move on to parks when you are. No, I mean, if there are more questions about
Yes,
public works.
please.
Okay, okay.
No, thank you.
So parks, for staff, we have 3 full-time maintenance employees. We've got our Quarry Road Director, Jeff Tucker, who's here tonight. And we typically hire between a dozen, say 12 and 16 seasonals each year to help us maintain our parks, fields, trails, playgrounds, courts, gardens, dog park. There's a lot of different amenities that we have here in town that we're all very proud of. And the crew does their best to take care of it. So not a lot of surprises in this budget either, outside of the labor costs, same union. So if we want to get rolling, maintenance revenue, I'd like to note on line 37, we're going to adjust the revenue from 5,000 to 11,000. This is a school mowing fee, essentially. We do all the mowing and trimming for Waterville Public Schools. So that number is going to go up a bit this year. If we move along to maintenance labor costs, line 49, you'll see a large overage there in overtime, roughly $13,000. Another a shift where we're taking $8,000 from this overtime line and moving it to the Quarry Road overtime line. It was for grooming. An honest error by our executive assistant. So that will bring that overtime number down, still over, but it'll be closer to 15,000, where we had budgeted 10. And based on that, we'd like to move that number up next year to 12,000 for overtime for our 3 full-time employees. Maintenance operating costs, let's see, I didn't have many highlights here. It looks like the numbers are pretty consistent. Electricity did go up a bit. We all know why. Recreational areas went from what we're proposing to bump that line up by 4,000 based on historical and the cost of materials. Everything else the same. Everything else is about the same. It is exactly the same. Moving on to the pool. Last year, so we have a memorandum of understanding with the AYCC, as you know. Our net revenue at the pool last year was $15,000, so we split that. And that's what we're proposing to do again this year. So the departmental request, Christina, can you help me with this? Where this is the transfer in where we're not transferring in?
Correct. We had it in there. It should not be in there because it's not going to be transferred in from the Haynes Fund. There's no way, the way that they do these passes, that they can screen to clearly identify that it's women and children that are eligible on an ongoing basis and provide documentation. Whereas some of their other programs, they clearly have the documentation to do that. This is a challenging one because of the family passes and things. So we want to reduce that and put it back to the 7,500 that was originally proposed. Well, I don't really want to put it back. I'd like to get revenue, but I don't think we're going to, so I think it needs to be the 7,500.
Instead of 25?
Pool operating costs, essentially the same, moving some things around. Created a new line for chemicals. It's more indicative of what we're using that for as opposed to cleaning supplies. So, but we did bump it up from 10 to 15. You'll see the pool reserve for $50,000 each year. That's a commitment that we have to the Harold Alphon Foundation for capital investments that they've made in the renovations to both the slide complex and to the main pool and the bathhouse. So I meant to catch up with you, Christina. I don't know what that, we've been doing that for the last several years. I don't know if we probably have $250,000 in that account now, I would guess. It's fine, yeah.
I think it's around, when I did it today, I think it's around 188 or 198.
Okay.
There was roughly 200, maybe 220. We took some money out of it for the pump repairs this year. So when I present that list, they'll have the total of what's in there.
Okay. Program revenue, yeah, there's not much to speak of there. You'll see in line 108 a transfer in program subsidy of $20,000. That was very similar to the pool, where the Haynes Fund, we transferred $20,000 in to this line to support athletic programs at the AYCC, youth athletic programs. So that, again, is not going to be transferred in through Haynes this year, correct, Christina?
Correct.
Correct. Moving down to program operating costs, again, you'll see that $20,000 proposing this year, again, to support AYCC youth programs. Don't know why that brown-tailed moth number is in there, because I don't remember putting that in there, so could we have another look? We don't need it for brown-tailed moth.
No, there was 10,000 put in last year, and the discussion was to see if they would journal the 10,000 to be added to the brown tails that was set aside if it wasn't spent this year. And it was put in an account that was designed that it could address ash borer
yeah.
or the trees
Okay.
infiltration.
Right.
But with the 10 in this year's, if you transfer that, it would give you 35,000 to work with if something happened. So if you don't feel you need the 10, I say cross it off the list.
Well, that could be something we consider, yeah. Nick, we'll make a note of that to discuss that. I do recall now it was environmental mitigation.
Yeah.
Really important to have that, but maybe this may be the year that we put it off. So I'll talk to Nick and Christina more about that. On to Quarry Road. Revenues, I believe we will meet or exceed all of our revenue projections. The ski club, Quarry Road event venue, lines 125, 126, and 127. The actuals through the end of February are all very close if they haven't already exceeded, and I'm fairly certain that each of them have exceeded now, so we're very happy with that. Ski rental as well. We anticipated $4,000 in revenue and have nearly doubled that, which is great. Miscellaneous as well. Yeah, just all the revenues look very strong at Quarry Road. Down to labor, up just a bit. The overtime line that we're moving, line 139, that we're moving roughly $8,000 over to, is going to jump that number up to 11, so it will be over by 4,000. Yeah, I can guess roughly, but I mean, I can, yeah, make a note, please. So Quarry Road operating costs, not many increases. I would like to note lines 161 and 162. So the actual overage here is roughly 38,000. Back late in the fall, we presented with the Friends of Quarry Road a grant from Kennebec Savings Bank for $25,000 that went to the Friends. This money is being transferred as we speak over to the city, the full $25,000 to offset this amount, because the city paid for all of, this was for Alpine improvements, I'm sorry, for the lights and the Alpine expansion and the electrical infrastructure, moving the Welcome Center, all of the things that we did out there this winter. So when the $25,000 comes in, the net for these two lines will be just less than $3,000 over, and we don't anticipate any more expenses this year, so we're as close as we can be. Moving along to our last page, which for me is 53, probably 54 for you. There aren't any changes. Electricity has gone up slightly. Yeah, so that's the Quarry Road budget. Jeff is here. If anyone has any, let me, if you don't mind, Jeff put together a stat sheet. These are really great statistics for Quarry Road.
While Matt's doing that, I know I'm kind of the new kid on the block, but what does happen if Quarry Road, for example, brings in so much more revenue this year than budgeted? Does that go into like a reserve account for future?
Quarry Road, we've been operating it very much like an enterprise account out there. So they've had a reserve. When they have profitable years, it's gone into the reserve. When they don't meet their revenues, it takes from the reserve, or they have breakdowns. And so they've been in a positive place for several years. It's been dwindling the last year or so we'll see what this year brings. And we just talked about it, there was an agreement at one time with Friends of Quarry that if it dipped below, that they would help to pay the director's salary. So I don't know where that stands. I would leave that to Nick and some people and Matt better versed in it. But right now, it's been in a positive position. So.
Great, thank you. No, it's really great to see those
The revenue numbers, yeah, we're very happy.
I have a couple questions. Going back to when you said the money that's not going to be utilized from the Haynes, is there going to be another account utilized to help those need-based folks for the memberships?
Just whatever the city was offering before, it's just that those subsidies would be raised through the tax rolls instead of from Haynes. But anybody who was a qualifying individual that wanted to apply for something could speak to Denise. They do take applications for families and things, and it would go directly to the Haynes Charity Committee for consideration. They do it more on an individual to make sure they're eligible.
For those programs specifically, even through her
Yeah.
department?
Yeah, if they
Okay.
if they weren't eligible for a subsidy for something they wanted to send their children to, and they thought they would qualify, they could apply directly with her for consideration.
Okay, thank you. My other question is Quarry Road, the revenue for summer programs. Why is it going to be so much lower, or the estimate? It's going from 5,000 to 1,500?
I think in the summertime, well, I know in the summertime, we partner with groups out there for programming. We don't have a lot of our own programs right now, so there just isn't a lot of revenue to be had in the summertime at this point. We were optimistic before, but some things fell through. So yeah, we're just not not in a position this coming summer to earn that revenue.
Okay.
You like-
Yeah, just the race series, right?
Right.
The trail race series, is that?
Are you talking like partnering with like camps, like, the various camps in the community? In regards-
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd also just like to say one more thing. All the, the overtime, just want to mention, give a lot of credit to Jeff and his team that we don't see all of the magical snow that was made when needed. That's done when we're all sleeping. Don't know how many people realize that. Like, it's a middle of the night project, and so they deserve a lot of credit for what they did this past winter.
Thank you, I agree. So we have one more budget.
Matt,
Yeah,
got a
okay,
quick
yeah, sure.
question.
Yeah.
What's the overall cost to the city for operating Quarry Road?
Well, it's right here, Quarry Road, roughly $120,000. That's what we budget for expenses. Yeah, 120.
So that's, we've got all this revenue coming in, but the city is paying $120,000 roughly for,
Well, hold on, 102.
to be able to operate Quarry Road. That includes maintenance.
Yeah, hold on, it's 207, right? Sorry, I don't have the right numbers here. Yep.
Well,
so
I was looking at the net.
That's what it is, right,
And
yeah.
What's the net? It's 207 minus the 190?
A second. 102, so Quarry Road, 207. What's the revenue, Christine? 134.5 is projected, right? Per revenue.
So roughly 70,000.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah,
So total cost of the city is $70,000?
correct.
Okay.
At the year end, it won't be, I would anticipate it being closer to 40 this year.
That will adjust out of the reserve account, though.
I mean, I personally think it's a very good investment, but I'm not sure everyone feels that way, so we might have some explaining to do.
I think it's a great investment.
Yeah, I mean, right, it's costly to, keep it going. We definitely do the best we can with what we have, keeping costs down and providing a great product.
I think it was a great winter out there too, so you
Thank
all
you.
have done a great job.
Okay. If folks are ready, we can move on to Pine Grove. Shouldn't take too much. Proud to report we've hired a new superintendent who's made a great impression on us in the short time we've had her. She began technically on the 1st of March. That's all we have. She works out of our office on Wentworth Court 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 10 to 2. Her season is off and running. So we have, of course, we have revenues and we have costs for the cemetery, just like our other budgets. Lot sales, we're not really comfortable moving up. We're going to keep those at 2,000. Burial income is a conservative projection for 7,500. It could be more. I would consider looking at that a little closer before all is said and done. So at the end of the year, we balance our revenues and expenses, and where we come up short, because there aren't a lot of means to make revenue at the cemetery, where we come up short, funds are transferred in through the perpetual care account that Christina manages. So she's the expert on perpetual care. I'm not. If you have questions, it has a very healthy, I would say, a very healthy balance right now.
That fund runs around $1.8 million. That's in that fund. And the reason for the spike this year is because we propose buying $50,000 worth of mowing and trimming equipment with those funds and utilizing that for the cemetery, which is what those funds are for. But the original requires, I think it's 1.1 or 1.2 that remains in there, which leaves about 800,000 available. We calculated out to have some rollover amount and variation. So we look at about 70% of what's available above the original amount that came over. So we're looking about availability of $450,000 available at this time to put toward this, minus whatever sales are made. So it's in really good shape. And so there will be zero from this budget. And in the prior years also, we showed the budget, but we zero it out before the end of the year. So there's no impact to taxation through this.
Do these numbers reflect the item that's going to be on our agenda on Tuesday?
What do we have? Oh, the adjustment to fees. That's what's on the agenda for Tuesday.
Yeah.
The fee schedule, we're proposing to move it up.
Yeah. Is that inclusive
It is.
on this? So this is.
It is.
Okay.
I mean, Mayor, we don't expect a lot of, we just don't have a lot of customers, to make up the difference. So
No, I'm just trying to like, if the council approves the fee schedule that's proposed in next, or Tuesday's council meeting, or they don't, the numbers come out of this, or is this budget anticipatory of the approval of these?
it is.
Dan did, I know we did it last year with the code and whatever, we had with the discussion, and it was probably, so I just want to make sure that when this comes to the council on Tuesday, we just remember back to this one, that's all.
Right. So a couple adjustments, well, just one adjustment is cemetery and maintenance wages, though. So this is for our new superintendent. So per contract, the departmental request this year it will move from 8 to 13,000. Expanded services, and our new superintendent is putting in almost twice as much time in the office. She has programs and events. She's really interested in community outreach. So we feel it's justified. I think she'll do a nice job for us.
Sorry, which line is that?
The cemetery maintenance wages, line
Okay.
27. Oh, it's line 27. Yep.
So this position, is it a new position? Has there ever been?
Yes, there has been.
There has been
Yep.
before?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
When's the last time it was filled?
It's been filled. All
right, so, and someone got done, and then
correct.
okay.
They retired, right?
All right.
Yep.
Just to reiterate, the net to taxpayers still remains zero, regardless, because of that reserve account for this dedicated purpose.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
You bet. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
While we're waiting for the next group to come up, I'll let you know that there's some big departments, so a lot of more line items tonight, but it was a combination of factors that made that the case tonight. Our finance director was able to be here tonight and not one of the upcoming nights, and we wanted her to be present. And then also, there's not a council meeting tonight, so when there's a council meeting, we want to be a little more brief on those nights.
I messed up already. I forgot to bring Christina chocolate. I know better.
I have some. Good evening, Chief. How are you?
Good evening, how are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm doing well as well. All right, like Matt, I'd like to kind of go through what our proposed budget was, and then afterwards, we have been in discussions on some things that we feel comfortable really looking at and taking a good look at. Some of them are, we've had discussions, and I don't have exact numbers on what they look like, and that's something that we're definitely working on. So I'd like to go down through this, we'll talk about that, and then obviously I'd love to answer any questions that you folks have. So obviously, the first part of the budget, fire protection revenue. I do think that there are some ways to change and increase our revenue lines, and I would like to kind of show you what we have here, and then I'll go through those changes afterwards if that's okay. Does that sound reasonable? All right. After that is our fire protection labor costs. This is driven by our union contract. So every line here is driven by what we have in the union. Fire protection operating costs, some smaller increases. I did increase training and workshops to around 2,500. And you'll see the same thing on the EMS side. We've been fortunate the last few years to receive a lot of grants that have paid for a lot of trainings. Some of our grant avenues are dried up, and I still would like to be able to provide the training that our folks need. Water and sewer is a small increase. Hydrant rental is a big increase. I don't have anything I can do about that. Electricity, I looked at what they projected for last year, and that's kind of where I landed, which seems a little high to me, and I'd like to take another look at that, to be honest with you. Heating fuel, you okay? Heating fuel is a $3,000 increase. Radios, alarms, and dispatch equipment, I put in a $1,000 increase. You can see in our actuals in '25, our radios are getting older, and they're obviously way more expensive than they used to be. Just trying to keep up with that. A small increase.
Before we move on.
Oh, yes.
For hydrant rentals.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain what that is exactly? Like rental versus ownership for hydrants, is that an option for us, or what does that entail?
No, it's not. We rent our hydrants from KWD because it's hooked to their water lines. We can't own them. We'd
Okay.
have to take care of them. And it's a fee that is handed down to us. We don't, I'd love to know if you guys could go on that and talk to them about it, but that fee is across the board, and it pays to upgrade the water lines in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rod, did you have a question? No. Oh, okay.
Chief,
Yeah.
do you have to maintain those, or does KWD?
We do not maintain those.
Okay.
Well, we don't maintain them. We do shovel them out.
Oh, okay.
Which is a discussion I'd also love to have.
Good to know, thank you.
So a couple small things. Vehicle maintenance, I did increase by 10,000. We are having some issues with our big trucks, as we've talked about in the past. On January, when we sat down in January and talked about this budget, we were already $1,200 overspent on our fire truck maintenance. And then obviously we just blew that out of the water when we lost the motor, which by the way is back today, so that's wonderful. And then we are having some turbo issues in our other engine. So they're getting older, and they're definitely hard to upkeep. The other things that we're seeing with vehicle maintenance, and something I have never ever seen in my entire 25-year career, we have tariff charges now on our bills, and they range anywhere from $500 to $1,000 every time we fix one of our trucks.
For the parts that they're?
For the parts, yeah. And that's not anything we've ever seen before, and obviously that's eating our budget up pretty fast every time you get one of those. So that's something that is much different. Clothing and uniform purchase, it did go up, and we do have the new people. And then a couple small increases down through just to try to keep up with the cost of everything that we have going on. I put $2,000 in fire equipment, and you can see that we're always over in that, so I'm just trying to play catch up and keep it up. Our things, fire, anytime something says fire equipment on it, it seems like it's way more expensive than what it should be, but that's kind of how it rolls. EMS revenue, we didn't touch that. We are closely monitoring our EMS revenue. In fact, we have a meeting Tuesday with QMC, who handles all of our billing. So we'll know kind of where we're at. She said by the end of March, end of April, we should have a pretty good idea where we're going to land for the year, so we'll keep it at that 1.6 mil for now. EMS labor costs, again, is driven by union contracts. Same thing with training and workshops in EMS. We've been receiving a very wonderful stabilization grant from Maine EMS the last couple of years. That is a no more. So to keep up with the training that especially our paramedics and advanced need, we do need to increase that line, or I'd like to increase that line. And then clothing uniform purchases is uniforms for our new people. And we do have a small uniform allowance for our call force members too, for t-shirts and uniforms, so that they also look nice when we go to events. And that's just a quick overview of where we stand with what I proposed. And then ask questions away, and then I'll go through what we've talked about, myself and Nick.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the opioid settlement funds, I see the budget for 2026 was 20,000, and you've already used all of it. Do you think you would benefit from having more? I mean, how are you offsetting? I'm just curious.
I'll let Christina talk about that.
Okay.
It's not that they use it. They buy plenty of things, I'm sure, along that. It's what we transfer in. So we appropriate it to help offset the cost for EMS and the fire department. So it's always going to be 100% used, because we just take $20,000 to offset their cost.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm asking. Like, could they benefit from more from those funds in that department?
Well, we always benefit from anything.
Silly question, right?
Yeah, we don't actually, I mean, we purchase all of our EMS equipment, EMS, any type of drugs that we use in the back of our trucks. That all comes from our EMS lines that we have. We don't actually use this money. It just gets put in there to offset basically our budget. Yeah.
Is there a reason, Christina, that you set it at 20,000, or can it be higher?
They didn't get money put in there until last year.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And it's based upon how much comes in and what's available under there. The bulk majority was designed to pay for the salary and the benefits of the community outreach officer that was placed in the police department to help assist with addressing some of that. But taking a look, when they added some prescription medicine people that now have to contribute to those settlements, it gave a little bit more money. So it took a look and said, where else do we have costs that might benefit from that? And so last year the suggestion was made that we utilize $20,000 toward the EMS service, because they are out there. And I would personally love to have a lot more to put in there.
So that would be an option for us, that we could increase the amount?
If you have funds available
Okay.
to put toward it,
Is that one of the fund balances that you can let us know about?
I will.
Okay,
Right now, I think there's $130,000 in that portion of it,
okay.
and we've earmarked $140,000 of it for this budget. So we earmarked $1,000 more, but money will come in this last 3 months. So you'll see that.
Okay. And then Chief, the fire revenues, I think you said you might touch on this, but does that take into account the new policies that we passed to increase some of those revenues, like when you're responding to a call and doing, taking someone out of a vehicle?
Yeah,
and-
no for the cost recovery one, because that goes into our cost recovery revenue line.
Okay.
Yep, like we paid for like the motor out of that and some EMS equipment out of that. So.
Great.
So yeah, that doesn't show up in the revenue stream.
Not that this is directly related to, well, it is in some way, the EMS, the impact of EMS here in Waterville. If, not to dig up the conversation that we had previously when we were talking about all the ambulance discussions, but the service that we offer here in Waterville with the ambulances, if we went back to the old way of just rely fully on Delta, not that I don't think we can do that, but if we did, do we remember what the response time change was compared? I know it got brought up during one of those meetings, but I can't for the life of me recall what it was.
Yeah, so before I came in the city as deputy chief, when we put on the ambulance service, I was told by the chief that was acting then that we were seeing a 15 to 20 minute wait time.
Okay, and currently, for the record, it is
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The problem we're going to have is, we got a lot of money that we're theoretically going to cut. For $1 million, I've heard Rebecca and I both said one, keep the mill rate down to increase of 1. The biggest line items for cost are your organization, the police, admin. I mean, have you got ideas for how we can help do this?
Yeah. Yep, we do. We've been discussing this quite a bit.
Want to lead off with one of them?
I can jump right into that, yeah.
Yeah.
So first thing we've done is we've gotten rid of the state-run hazmat team. I think that there was many reasons that I felt it was proper to do that. A couple of them was we're stretched thin, and I decided that one more training that we don't need is a way to get rid of it. We did receive money from the state to run that team, but unfortunately what happens is a lot of times is our hazmat team gets called, we go to scene, we accrue overtime costs and materials and this and that, and then it's deemed not to be a hazmat call, and now we don't get anything from the insurance payers, and we eat that cost as a city, and I just felt that that was not appropriate anymore. So we did, actually 3 days ago, all our stuff left the city. The only thing we will be doing now is we will be sending a duty crew member if there is a hazmat call, because we are fully trained. And they did allow us to keep a bunch of equipment that we use on the regular, is that we will send somebody to help that neighboring fire department figure out what they really have on their hands and help them set up a command post, help them set up a hazmat call, however that may be, but we will not have full-blown hazmat team anymore. What that could entail for savings, it varies year to year, but I mean, I would estimate anywhere from upwards of $10,000 maybe in OT costs that we may not accrue just because we're not going somewhere and not getting reimbursed for it. And that was kind of one of the biggest reasons I felt that it was be prudent to let that go. A couple other things we're looking at. So that's number one. Number two is I believe we can increase our revenues. We can increase our fire alarm fees, fire alarm revenues. I feel comfortable with at least a $4,000 increase. You can see throughout the years that we've been bringing in more than we had budgeted, so I'm pretty comfortable with that. And we're also adding new boxes. Every year we add boxes and boxes, and so I feel that we can do that. With some upcoming construction that will be happening in the city, and because of what that construction entails and what they are for occupancies, I believe that we can change a little bit. And I mean, we've talked about it, and I feel comfortable that we could see an increase in our fire plan revenue of upwards of $25,000 to $30,000 this year. Now, that's not a year-over-year thing. I wish it was, but this year I definitely think we could do that, and I would feel comfortable doing that. Some other things that we're doing, and these are things that we're working on trying to figure out how much it could save us. But I would just like to talk about, and this will tie into that, the benefits of the 4 people that we were allowed to hire last year and what it has done and hopefully will continue to do and what we're going to see into the future. We just actually onboarded our last person last Friday. So we haven't seen like the full benefit of what this is going to do for us. But already we can see where the changes are going to be. Obviously, burnout's huge, right? We talked about that last year a lot. So what this is allowing us to do is, number one, it allows us to get our 3rd ambulance on the road a little bit easier. And we since we've put on the 4, we have not given many calls away, if any that I can think of. So it allows us to get our 3rd ambulance on the road, allows us to capture that potential revenue, and it also allows us to keep a fire truck operational in the city, which when we have put the 3rd ambulance on the road before, we had no fire coverage in the city. So that is a big impact as far as I'm concerned. Increases our personnel on fire scenes, makes fire scenes safer, and also increases our production on fire scenes. And I think Tuesday night we're giving away a couple of awards where we saved a lady from a burning building in the building, and those potential increases in personnel definitely helps us do that. The other thing, the bigger things though, and what I think is going to allow us to do is change our operational model on the way that we respond to certain calls. Right now, because we've always been kind of smaller when it comes to like the big manufacturing facilities that we have, the big buildings that we have, is we've always had to put out tones to have people come help us. If we are fully staffed that day, we should be able to take care of all of those ourselves, which will help us not include the overtime costs and the personnel costs. So we are working on what that looks like right now, but we're already starting to do that, or we'll be starting to do that. And then what it has really done for us is on the EMS side of things, it's really helped us change our EMS operational model. I think we've spoken about this before. When we run, each call is coded a different way, Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Echo. When we run a Delta and Echo level call, we have to send, by our medical control, we have to send a 3rd person out. That 3rd person has always been the last person, which is in our fire truck. As we've talked about, our fire trucks are getting beat up. What it has done is allows us to keep that person in the fire truck. The extra person that we now have on shift is now running in our smaller rescue, and their job is just to chase ambulance calls if that's what they need to do, which will help us keep those big trucks in the station and stop and hopefully cut down on the maintenance costs that we're seeing, which are pretty significant. So those are some of the bigger things that the benefits of the 4 has given us. The last thing I would like to bring up, and it's one of those things that we've talked about at length, and Nick and Sarah and I talked about it again today, is we'll know more about the numbers on Tuesday when we meet with our team from QMC. But Everett and I sat down the other day and we ran tons of numbers on the EMS side of the house. We believe, and I know this was a policy that we put forth together, but I think it deserves another look at least, is we believe that last year we lost out on the potential of $181,248 in revenue because we're not charging Waterville residents if they don't pay. So basically at the end, when a bill gets sent to QMC, if it's over 120 days, to go into collections if it doesn't pay, and when I say collections, it's a terrible word. It goes over to Empire Collections though, and they look at trying to collect that money, and it doesn't go against anybody's credit score because it can't, that's against the law, but they try to find a way to work with the person to see if we can get them to pay the bill. So at the end of 120 days, it gets kicked over to Empire Collections, but if it's a Waterville resident, it doesn't go there, it just is dead in the water at that time, and if it is less than $500, it doesn't go anywhere. So last year, we believe, looking at the potential revenue loss, it was about $181,000 that we lost out on potential revenue. So I would love to have that conversation again and look at that again, if that's possible.
An example that Chief and I have thrown back and forth to try to make it more clear to people why we think that's justifiable would be using a different department altogether, like code enforcement, for example. We have the code enforcement department that provides a readiness, if you will, and every resident with their tax dollars pays for that readiness to have a code enforcement department provide the services. But then if you are going to build something, you pay a user fee for the building permit and the inspection costs. This feels like similar to that in the respect that the entire city wants the readiness of being safe and having EMS ready, but then the user of the service, it seems reasonable that they should pay an additional fee if they actually use the service, or at least we try to work with them versus just throw it away if they don't, have the normative insurance route. So.
Yeah, and we did have, before we went this route, we did have a hardship waiver form that we could always use and go back to using, where we could look at those hardships and then decide as a team where we need to go from there. So I do think it's a discussion that we should have.
Chief, when you, help me understand, so you all go after the bill first, and then if it's not paid, it goes to? After the 120 days. After the
Yes,
120
that's
days,
correct.
okay.
Yep.
So are we using like the hardship form and stuff with Waterville residents now, or no?
We haven't seen one for
Okay.
a long time, have we? We should get the EMS deputy up here. Come on, sit right down.
So the hardship waivers are still in effect. So our billing company, they do have access to that. So if they do have a patient that we took care of and they report to the billing company, it could be a copay. So if their insurance company pays their portion, they still have a sizable copay, and they're strapped for money, they can still fill out a hardship waiver, and then we review it, and we make decisions based on that. But we still utilize it now if need be.
And do we have like the ability to make like a payment plan with a resident? Say they're like, I can do $25 a month or something like that, or would that have to go through
The billing company, as long as it's within that 120-day
Yep.
period of time, the billing company will work with the patient
Okay.
to make payment plans. And likewise, the collections company too will do the same thing. So if somebody has, a $1,000 bill, nobody's expecting them to pay it outright, especially if they don't have insurance. And they work with the patient to make a payment plan so we can recoup that revenue.
And is it typical for other municipal departments to ask their residents to pay and not go to collections if they don't?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So can I ask a question? I'm sorry. So from date of need, right? Like, so, and then you get billed. At whatever point that comes, it's usually a couple weeks after, whatever, like a month, whatever. So from that day to 120 day, there is an active collection process that takes place. And at the 120 day, we say, okay, no collections now. So the jump from $0 collected to 181,000 from 120 day to, was it 180? Like, you get 60 days, right? Like, it's 180 I think is the max you can collect. I think is 180. So I'm just trying to see what that number looks like. That's a big number, right? So for that last 60 days, that we're going to get 180,000 from the 180 day to 120 day to 180 day. So like, how much is that not being collected? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? Like, what's the percentage of that? Well, how did you get to 181? Sorry.
You want me to?
Yeah, go for it. I have our mathematical equations here.
Yeah, so we're basing it upon our total call volume, billable call volume, and we generally run a 20% unbillable rate for various reasons. We also know what our self-pay rates are, or the patient's self-pay rates are collectively across all of our billable reports and so on and so forth. So we just transitioned all that math and those stats upon.
Plus our trip revenue.
Right. So, we know that, 75 to 80% of our total call volume is patients with Waterville addresses. So we just transferred over what our total self-pay rate is globally, and we transferred that math to Waterville residents as it relates to self-pay, so patients that are not insured, that we generally, we have a very hard time recouping revenue from. So we're estimating around $180,000 from patients with Waterville addresses that are self-pay, we're not recouping, we're not getting money from.
Can I ask too, Everett? So when, say, I call EMS, it gets sent to, because I'm insured, it gets sent to my insurance agency. My insurance agency is like, I'm only covering, X amount of this bill, right? Is that partially some uncollectibles as well, where, you guys have asked for a bill, the insurance company only paid this much, and then the patient doesn't pay their part?
So like their copay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be part of it too.
Okay. But you're not including even that in this recoup, so it could be higher.
Correct, because right now, and this is not our own policy, it's the collections agency policy, that they don't want to take accounts that are less than $500. So there's plenty of copay balances that are essentially written off. And we just, it's one of those instances where it is the cost of doing business in EMS, unfortunately. Yeah. Which is, it's not exclusive to the city of Waterville, it's everywhere.
Could you provide those, so what you bill versus what comes in and what's remaining, can we see those numbers?
Like the discrepancy from what we're actually collecting?
Yeah, like, so we start off, we're gonna bill $100,000, right? Like, I mean, just, whatever, like, and then you collect during that period of time from incident to 120, and then there's an amount that's left over, which is the 180 that you're projecting, right? Like, so, to me, that number that was billed is pretty large. Like, if we're, if at the end of 120 days, we're not collecting anything during the 120 days, and because now we're going to go this last ditch effort, we're going to just all of a sudden see a spike in collection because of whatever efforts happened prior.
Yeah, we can send out what that looks like throughout the 30, 60, 90, 120 day, and what that looks like. We generally average around $3 million that gets billed out. But again, year to year so far, we're right around that $1.6 million mark is what we actually take in revenue, just to give you a point of reference.
Thank
Do
you.
you feel like you're kind of on track to get that 1.6 this year?
We're still looking at that. We really want to hold off before we say any sort of number.
Yeah.
Just to get us closer to the end of this fiscal year to see where we sit with that. But it's going to be very close.
And do you expect that kind of what we're seeing this year will be similar next year, like as far as like Medicaid and all of those things? Like I know you don't have a magic, crystal ball, Everett, like I'm not expecting, but you can.
I'd love to know the future.
It's the situation is pretty dire now, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like.
So we, our call volume ebbs and flows, so that's one piece of unpredictable data. And you folks approved a new fee schedule for us, which certainly should improve things on the commercial payers and our VA payers. But essentially our Medicaid and Medicare payers will pay their contractual allowance, and that's it. There's no change there. So it'll be interesting to see another 6 to 8 months worth of data with this new fee schedule, anyways, to see where those numbers will lie into the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, are you suggesting that if we change our policy, you can add $181,000 of revenue to the budget?
I don't know if we can add 181,000. I know that's,
Okay.
it's a best guess estimate.
Sounds good.
Right, I don't want to tie us into that number, but that's the number we came up with. That is a potential, and that's based off of what our average payer is. That's based off of what we see for our averages coming through on self-pay. That was our best guess. We've also given this information to QMC, and when we have our meeting on Tuesday, they're supposed to help us work through this a little bit more. I'm interested to see how close we actually came. We looked like mathematicians the other day with stuff written all over the place, and luckily, we do have a wonderful billing agency, and they are extremely helpful to us. So Everett has provided them with what we're looking for information, and what we're hoping that they'll come back and tell us that we were close or something. But yeah, that's what we estimate, yes.
But like anything else, like with the accounts that go to collections, which is a sizable amount, we know we're not going to collect all that. We just know. And a lot of those folks, and it tends to be self-pay, you know, for the folks that the collections agency can contact and establish a payment plan, then fantastic. Then we'll get a slow trickle of money that way. But, you know, if there's $180,000, you know, sitting still that we'd like to try to tap into, well, I don't think we'd ever recoup a whole lot, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
but it comes down to, you know, as it relates to the city of Waterville, residents of the city of Waterville, if my next door neighbor is paying their bills and I decide I don't want to, that's very impactful, you know, to the tax liability here in Waterville. And we're trying to help that out a little bit, so.
Yep.
So, quick question. I'm trying to follow this. So it seems like that we've got folks that live in Waterville that missed their deadline of 120 days. And then we have a policy in place where we do not attempt to collect. Now, how do we get that policy changed?
We have the
Yeah,
power.
we would vote on it.
Yeah, that was a city policy that at the time we had input from the city council. There was recommendations that were made by the then city manager that made sense, and the whole, I think Chief said it too, you know, the subject of collections and stuff like that, especially healthcare debt, is a very, very, very sensitive topic. And we understand that, but the healthcare debt does not affect people's credit, but it gives us a chance to work with a third-party collections agency to try to recoup some of that revenue. And it is working. It is working. But like I said, nearly 80% of our total call volume are in fact Waterville residents or folks with Waterville addresses. So I think, like Chief said, we've got to look at that and try to recoup some of that revenue that we need to operate efficiently. So.
Question, so the non-residents, when we collect and we get to that 120 day, what is the percentage, what's that return? What's that percent? Do we know that?
On the, what
So,
we
like,
collect
so-
versus the uncollected?
Yeah, like, so, like, well,
The ones that go to collections.
yeah, so we just, you guys came out and said, well, listen, we're not billing Waterville residents after 120. If we do that, we're going to get, you know, an estimated 181,000, right? So if we have non-Waterville, you know, so what does that number look like? So once we get to 120 to the 180, what does that return percentage look like? Is it-
I don't know. I don't know. I know that, you know, they got to be over $500. Right now, not a Waterville resident. And then each patient account gets transferred over. And then for each of those accounts, I don't know. We're talking like, some of that data I don't have access to. That's the collections agency. So I don't know. I don't know. I know.
But like, well, so you guys have a meeting on Tuesday, right? So they should be able to tell you, you'll get the
With the billing
success
company.
rates.
With
Yeah,
the billing company, yeah.
not the collection.
Not
Yeah,
collections,
not
no.
collections.
We're meeting with billing.
Do you think that you'd be able to find that out, Everett? How successful they are in that collections process?
Yeah, I can, I'm sure they could provide some of that. some of
Okay.
that data, yeah.
Maybe we can use that rate and get a better
Yeah,
idea
we
of
will
what
reach out
could
for
be.
Yeah, out of that
recouped.
180-ish thousand, yeah, I mean, it's a fraction of that, there's no question about it. It's just one of those things, but yeah, we can. And I did ask too, I do have an inquiry out with our billing company of how many of Waterville patients with Waterville addresses are in fact self-pays and have not paid paid their balance or have insurance pay out beyond the 120-day mark. Basically, so just check our math, if anything, but just so we really have a true idea of what so that pot of money is in that sort of the clientele that are self-pays here in Waterville. So just to kind of refine that, because I think it's important for us to know, it's important for you folks to know.
So, and I want to just be crystal clear. So the 180,000 is the estimate in the increase? Because, and I only asked that just because in this back and forth that you just had, you said it was a fraction of that.
So
I want to make sure that the number, the 180,000 is that what's out there? We're going to collect a fraction of that, or is the number bigger and we're going to collect 181,000?
That is our current estimate, that we're going to try to refine that number. But based on our estimates, there's about $180,000 as it relates
owed to us.
That are Waterville residents, and that we're factoring the self-pay.
But the 181,000, so I just want to be crystal clear. The 181,000 is the total amount from 120 to, like at 120 that is owed to us, not the amount that we're going to collect. If we collect it, 10%, I mean, that's 1.8 million,
It's
like that's owed to us.
It's what we're predicting as uncollected.
Uncollected debt.
And then it's likely that we could potentially collect a fraction of that, whatever that fraction
Okay,
is.
so we're not anticipating an increase of 181,000.
No, that's
Yeah,
not what we're
okay.
suggesting. No.
Okay.
No.
Thank
I'd like to.
Yeah,
but,
No, no.
that would be only if we had a 100% collection success rate.
Right.
No, but that's,
For
was
for
sort of
self-pay,
presented that way.
for self-pay.
correct,
payer.
yes, I just want to make sure.
Right, and that's only self-pay, only Waterville residents.
And plus, the collections agency takes 20%, right?
30.
I think it's,
30, okay,
30%,
of that,
yeah.
yeah, right, okay. But it's worth looking.
But we will check on that, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is it's a daunting process to try to shake
Right.
out, for sure. Yeah.
I think it was a policy that was maybe introduced in sort of with the desire to not put people in hardship, but by not even trying to collect, it isn't really totally fair, so.
I agree.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
agree. And that, I know that's why we talked about it then. And
Right,
I
right.
absolutely agree.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
correct.
And even my meetings with the collections agency, they're not, if somebody owes $1,000, they're not expecting a $1,000 payment. If they could do $5 a month or whatever, then so be it. And that's sort of the idea.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's always the tax liability. We own the tax liability.
Yeah.
On everything that's uncollected as a city. So.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll get the data. It's just me, I don't understand, I guess, I'd have to go back and check the policy as to why we would, why is it a benefit to Waterville residents to have a collection process from day 1 to 120, and then at 120, we just, the process doesn't change, right? I'm still calling you to set up, payment arrangements from day 1 to 120, and then at 120, we just say, all right, Waterville resident, well, you're good. And then everybody else, we just continue to request, right? So.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And we're new, and honestly, and this is, EMS billing is not my forte. So, when this was suggested, we're like, okay, this is how we're going to ease into this. But we're a year into this, and it's like, this does not make sense. We should include everybody. There should be no exclusions whatsoever, and that's what makes sense to us.
Yeah, so I think I'm interested to see what the revenue projections for next year would be if we did include everyone, if that's something you can work with the collections agency and the billing agency with, and how that impacts sort of,
Yeah, we'll see if we can tease out,
especially
some clear numbers.
specifically how it impacts the EMS
Yes.
net cost. Because I think if we can chip away at some of the net cost of that EMS, that could help things.
And we've been doing this now for, I forget how long, with the collection agency. Is it like 9 months or so?
Are we pulling up on a close to a year? No. I would have to look.
In any case, but we could look at we could look at a percentage of what we have been able to collect using this agency,
Yes.
right? And make that estimate on what we might collect on this additional money that we're not pursuing.
Yeah, what I would be really interested to see is, so our collections agency and our billing agency, they work hand in hand. So when they pull right from them, so I would be interested to see what Empire Collections is pulling from them in terms of their debt that they're pulling from them and how much they're receiving out of that. That's what I would be really interested to see, because I don't even know how much they're pulling from them right now. We're just, we're not sure, so
Yeah.
that's what I would like to see, and that's definitely something we can try to get from them and bring back to you.
Great, thanks.
Is there any more questions? This is just something that we've been putting together. It's not something we have to spend a lot of time on. It's reading material, or you can just throw it away if you'd like, but I thought it was very interesting. These are departments that I've reached out to all of them. These are the ones that have returned my calls. There are also ones that look like us and run like us, call volumes, and then there are also departments that are around us, so our geographical area. They are from at the very top down to the last one, which is Saco, and they didn't get back to me, so that's fine. And where we stand as far as budget, where we stand with personnel, and where we stand as far as how much it costs every time we go out for a call. And you'll see where we stand with our FY26 budget. And then you'll also see where we stand if I plug in our proposed FY27 budget against their 26 budgets. And this is obviously not a us against them thing, it's just a numbers game that I find interesting to look at. And later on down the road, or if you guys want to talk about this some more, I'm more than happy. You can come right over to the station, or I can meet you somewhere, and we can chat about these numbers.
Sorry, can you just repeat that again? This document represents?
This document represents each department's, you'll see their budget, their FY26 net budget, and then you'll see how much it costs every time they roll out the door, cost per call. It just basically broke their budget down into how many.
We took hydrants out of it. Now, and this is fire, this is strictly fire or fire EMS?
Most of these are fire EMS except for a few of them. Yeah, and you'll see I put transporting or non-transporting next to the department's name. And I also put hydrants or no hydrants depending on if they have it in their budget or not. Just so I could show apples for apples. Even though I like oranges.
Okay.
And Mr. Beals, I understand, that we are one of the obviously larger budgets in the city, but for what we do for work, I feel like we do a pretty good job with our budget and what we have for personnel. And I just wanted to try to show that.
Yeah,
compared to
no
other
one
departments.
doubts that you don't do a good job.
No,
That's-
not do a good job. I don't mean it like
Yeah.
that. But I think that our budget is most definitely in line and much smaller than most, and we also have a lot less personnel. And I realize that, again, we have a large budget in this city. I understand that. But I just wanted to show some numbers, and you can pick that apart and do what you would like with it.
Thank you.
I'll get you candy bar. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Deputy Chief.
Don't be scared.
Well, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so I thought I'd start off by giving you guys just a little bit of data about what the police department did in calendar year '25. We made over 3,000 traffic stops, responded to over 700 accidents, arrested 110 OUIs, and made 72 arrests for crimes against persons. Our public safety answering point, which we commonly call the PSAP, answered 17,574 911 calls and created over 45,000 calls for service. And I know that most of you are interested in the work done by our community outreach coordinator, and he responded to 644 calls last year. And those are initial calls, so if he responds and somebody follows up with him or he follows up with them, that doesn't create another incident. So those are just initial calls that he responded to. So he's out there, he's doing a good job in helping people as well. So I'll just jump right in. If you guys have any questions while I'm going, please feel free to interrupt me. In fiscal year '27, we're asking for a budget that would be a net cost to the city of $6.5 million, just over $6.5 million. That's an increase of 7.5% over last year, but 91% of our budget is labor cost. And a large portion of the increase that we're looking at is labor cost. And, as the fire chief mentioned, much of that is contractual, voted on by prior boards, or some of you were here when those were voted on. So I thought that I would go through the budget and highlight some of the lines that have increases that I thought you might have some questions about. So I'll start with law enforcement revenue on line 38. Hopefully you guys have the same lines I do. That's MDEA reimbursement. That is actually up due to a raise given to the state police, and that's what our reimbursement for our MDEA agent is based on. You'll also see $30,000 in there on line 40 for MCJA wage reimbursement, and we have one of our supervisors operating as a cadre right now at the academy. So he's helping lead the next generation of law enforcement at the basic law enforcement training program. Currently, for the first time in history, all the cadre supervisors, of which ours is one, are municipal and not state police. So we're proud of that. It also gives us some revenue, which is really nice, especially in a year where we're looking for more revenue. So moving on, if you have no questions about that, to law enforcement labor costs, you can see an increase in wages. Oh, go ahead.
So when you say wage reimbursement, so what is the commitment for him to be, I'm sorry, thank you, Chad. What is the commitment, the time commitment to be there? We're getting money back.
We're getting money back. That money basically pays for any overtime that he would have. It doesn't pay his wages. However, the benefits to us in his development, the development of our own cadets, and the development of future cadets is huge. In addition, the other thing that's a huge benefit for us is while he's there, we're guaranteed a spot in the academy. So, if I hire somebody today, which isn't going to happen, but if it were to happen, their hire date would go down, and that would put them on the list at the academy. And maybe they get in and maybe they don't. But while he's here, we're guaranteed a spot at the academy. That saves us money because it costs us overtime to fill shifts when we don't have trained people.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So moving on to law enforcement labor costs, you see an increase there. Again, that's contractual. Not much we can do there. On line 51, you see we're asking for a nominal increase in overtime that, it's less than the actual wage increase that we're getting on the wage line. And, we're trying to be fiscally responsible here, but we're currently tracking at just under 7% over on the OT line. It's just incredibly difficult in emergency services to predict what that line is going to do. Major Woods has done a great job developing an Excel spreadsheet so we can predict that as close as possible, but just every year something pops up that surprises us. Either a critical incident, this year it's court costs are, going through the roof because of the amount of time we have officers in court, which is more than I've ever seen in my career, just sitting around waiting because of the backlog at the court. So, it's a tough one to manage, but we do the best we can. And talking of Major Woods' spreadsheets, he's very fond of his spreadsheets, but it helps us. He did one for holiday pay as well. So you see line 52, holiday pay. That's quite an increase, but in the last 2 years, we've had those unexpected holidays that have hit us all pretty deep. And additionally, with Major Woods' spreadsheet, we've been able to nail that down a little closer to what it actually costs us even without the surprise holidays. So that's why the increase there. And we're currently 105% expended on that line for this fiscal year.
Chief, just very quickly, I know that you guys have implemented the rank of corporal. How has that implementation, has that been able to reduce some of that overtime? Or, because, I mean, you're fully staffed, correct?
At the moment, we're going to have an opening on April 5th. So,
Okay.
but for the moment, we're fully staffed.
So, and I know that, because I believe it was a last budget or it was sometime where you were talking about the corporals. Have you seen a decrease in the need of like supervisory overtime, or how does that? How's that working out?
So we've saved $16,000 in overtime because of the corporals. That hasn't quite been a wash for us yet because, we had to obviously give the people we promoted a raise.
Correct.
So while we've saved $16,000 in overtime, we've also saved on wear and tear on the sergeants and, improved sergeant morale. We've had a couple times where the sergeant's gone home sick in the middle of the shift, where that would have been a call at, 2 o'clock in the morning or midnight, whatever, to another sergeant, where we've had a corporal on and we've been able to keep them there. Well, additionally, we're 75% of the way through the fiscal year right now, but the last 25% is when we tend to see a lot of vacations because people tend to take vacation in May and June. So,
For sure.
Every time a sergeant takes a vacation, that's a big hit. So I expect that number will go up significantly in the amount of savings on the overtime line. And then when we complete the corporal program, well, obviously that won't be this year, but in the future, when we complete the corporal program and also make some other negotiations with the contract, which is up next year, I think you're going to see a bigger savings realized. But the number right now is $16,000 for overtime.
And how many police officers do you have? In the, because I know that MDA, how many in Waterville are doing that right now?
Are doing MDEA?
Yeah.
We have one MDEA
That's
agent.
what I thought. All right,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the rest of the items on labor costs are numbers that are provided to us by HR, and we don't have a ton of control over those. So if everybody's okay and wants to move on or is ready to move on, I'll go down to law enforcement operating cost. And actually, I was going to bring up the corporals right here because dues and membership went up a slight amount, and that is partially due to things going up, but it's also due to having the corporals involved in our leadership organizations like the Maine Chiefs of Police so they can get training and et cetera. Moving to the next page, at least it's the next page for me, on line 74, you see an increase. That's a $2,500 increase because we're going to have to order new parking tickets this year because we're going to run out. So that is, something that is really unavoidable, at least until we decide to do something different with parking. The next several lines that you see there, water, sewer, electricity, sewer's down, electricity's up. I think that's the same for everybody. We expect heating fuel to remain the same. Line 78 is our vehicle lease line. This is an increase for the lease of 2 vehicles. I would note that this is a $36,000 increase, and if we were to buy these 2 vehicles outright this year, that would cost us $140,000 to buy and outfit those vehicles. And that's a rough number. I can't.
So right now, the fleet, only 2 are being leased?
No, right now, we have 24 cars, and only 8 of them are owned. Everything
Okay.
else is leased. But I'm talking about 2 new leased cars for this year. That's the increase.
And that's the 36,000?
That's the 36,000, correct. That and our other lease payments.
Right,
So,
and, you know, just how much would it be if we were to buy 2 police vehicles fully outfitted?
be around 140.
That's right.
Yep, so it's a big cost for us to do this. You know, we go back, I know some of you weren't here when we made this decision, but we decided to lease cars as a result of the IACP study, which was done when I took over in 2022. And, you know, their recommendation was simply that a well-maintained fleet is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and they recommended a fleet maintenance program. And so with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, we have a fleet maintenance program. They help us track maintenance. They look at cars and they say, that one might be costing you a little extra money, so we got to do something about that. And they help us manage that. And that program is managed by Major Woods, and he does a great job with that. Line 80, this was radio alarms and maintenance. We zeroed that out to go into line 81. We also, and this is just drawing lines from one line to another, but we also added some stuff that we would have typically taken out of line 91 to that line 81, and so that's why you have the increase there. So we took such things from the safety supply line as lockout kits, storage bins for the vehicles, which would safely secure items in the vehicle so they don't go flying around, as well as some radar units. And so additionally, not only did we do that, it's just expensive to maintain cars right now. You hear that with the fire chief, and we're no different. It's trending higher. Line 82 is a nominal increase, and that's up because our building is approaching 15 years old and needs routine maintenance. We talked about this last year, such as paint, fence repair, and just basic stuff around the building to make it look professional. I'll jump down to line 91, which I already spoke of. And, a question might be, if I were you, I would ask the question, why, if you took some stuff from line 91 and put it up in line 81, did you not reduce the expenditure on line 91? And the reason for that is because we're taking our bulletproof vests out of that line. And the bulletproof vest grant that has typically paid for half of our bulletproof vests has not been approved right now. We've applied for it and the federal government has it on hold. So we have to count on being able to buy and replace those vests. And it's just having the bulletproof vests on the correct cycle is absolutely mandatory. We have a policy that they have to wear them, and you have to replace them every 5 years.
Excuse me, Chief, could you just repeat that? The bulletproof vests, tell us which line they're moving from and to.
Line 91, they've been coming from there. They're going to stay there. The difference is we've been paying half the price for them because we've had the grant, and right now the grant is on hold. So we have to, we have to be able to make sure we can pay for those.
When is the next cycle for ballistic vests?
So he's already, Major Longley put in for that grant. He's already done it. We're just waiting, and we have not heard. So the federal government's been pretty slow on that type of stuff recently. Line 96 is community policing. That was a $5,000 line last year. We cut it to $2,500. We're asking, I know we're looking for cuts this year, but we're asking for that to be put back to $5,000. It's currently expended at $4,697, and sometimes our community initiatives just cost a little bit of money. I do have some ideas for some possible increased revenues and cuts that I'm happy to discuss a little bit later. Okay, so if we're good on law enforcement operating cost, I'll move to animal control revenue. That is line 102 on mine. You'll see that that line is down a little bit, but that's because it is based on the actual enforcement that we do. Our ACO is part-time and enforcement is inconsistent. The rest of the ACO lines, with the exception of main paid leave, which is over on line 112 on the next page for me, it's all steady. So, and we can't control main paid leave. That's something that was told to us. Moving along, if we look at comm center revenue, which starts on line 119, it shows an increase of 2.9%. We're actually projecting at the moment going up 5%, and it shows as 2.9% because some money comes out of that to go to a capital fund. So if something breaks in the comm center, we can replace it, and that's in the contracts of the folks that we serve, the 8 other communities that we serve. So for this year, the comm center net cost is, at this point, as I said, projected to be $766,000, just over that. That's a $113,000 increase over last year when matched against revenue. But that entire increase minus $1,300 is in labor costs. And so moving to labor costs, we look at line 130. It's a 6.2% increase. That's all contractual. Overtime, we did the same thing with this. Operations manager, Batiste, took Major Woods' Excel spreadsheet and tried to get as close as possible for this coming year. This line in the comm center, we're 75% of the way through the year. As I mentioned, it's currently 109% expended, and that's because we had a resignation, and every one of the shifts while we had that opening had to be filled. So sort of unpredictable, but we're trying to get that number to the closest that we can and have it be correct. Line 132 is standard overtime. That is an increase, but it goes along with their contractual increases, and that's built in overtime that they have every other week in their schedule, and we do that to comply with labor law. Line 133, holiday pay, is the same thing as on the law enforcement side. The operations manager, again, used Major Woods' spreadsheet to get it as close to accurate as possible, and we think we're there. And then just moving to the other increases there, you have line 148, which is a $300 increase to the internet. And the only explanation for that is that the internet went up. And then on line 150, we have $1,000 added to mileage so that we can pay for the mileage. That's mostly the operations manager traveling to meetings that she's required to go to as part of her general duties. And so everybody's talked about the situation that we're in this year with the budget, and everybody's trying to do their fair share to make cuts, increase revenues, and do what they can. And while I can't really talk about specific numbers tonight because I wouldn't want to give you a number that was wrong, I can tell you that areas that we're looking at to improve revenue and decrease costs are increasing the comm center fees more than 5%. We've had communications with the communities, and we're not going to go up an unreasonable amount, but we do believe that we can fairly increase them a little more than 5%. Utilizing capital funds previously unexpended to help offset the purchase of the vehicles. Utilizing forfeiture funds to offset certain lines, and we're also looking at several revenue options related to outside details, false alarms, and also the potential for renting our firearms range. So those are the things that we're currently looking at now. I'm sure there will be more as we have further discussions with the city manager, but right now, that's where we stand.
Do you think there's an opportunity to increase revenue through parking fines?
I do think there's an opportunity there, but I think that it is going to take a great deal of research from us and from this body. Because I think the way that you increase revenue is with a pay-by-parking system. And while I think that that will absolutely increase the revenue, there's going to be a cost of implementation. So we should look at that, I think, as a long-term goal. I don't think it's a solution for this year.
Might be a good project for the Colby Policy Center.
Yeah.
Other communities do it, and it works well.
That is a key element in the downtown vision plan as well, and something that we've been talking about for a while, so I hope that rises to on the to-do list.
Sure.
And absolutely could be a way to help sustain the department and the increase
For sure.
of work that you guys have, especially downtown, so.
For sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions, comments? Anything that we heard tonight that you want clarification, you want Nick and everyone else to work on to provide any information for Tuesday?
I don't know if I have anything to provide for clarification, but I just want to thank both of the big departments, right? I know those are the two big line items in our budget, and I appreciate you taking the due diligence to come here and think of ways and creative ways that we can address some of our budget shortfalls and how we can all work together to make sure that we're keeping safety at the forefront, but while also making sure that we're taking care of our taxpayers and not overstraining the tax base. So thank you, and excited to keep working through some of that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
As a quick summary, it doesn't seem like we're getting close to that amount of money that we got to cut. So am I missing something?
That's
or-
my concern, too. I mean,
Well, I don't think we have to cut it, I just think they're suggesting it. So let's, you know what I mean, like, I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's a requirement.
Councilor Harard is correct. I mean, it is, you know, the $1 million is I guess, a blueprint of what we can do in order to try to alleviate some of the tax burden on the citizens of Waterville. And even the document that we were provided is you know, kind of a template, or a suggestion for that matter. So, yeah, you're right. We're not obligated. I mean, obviously, this is just the first meeting. We have plenty more, so.
I would like to say that I think that the goal of trying to cut $1 million is a good goal to reach for. But before we have any kind of large-scale discussions about cuts or anything like that, I think listening to the remaining departments give their presentations, especially since school is such a major part of our budget, we can't really make any decisions or make any large-scale suggestions without hearing that. Though I am anticipating us having a more in-depth conversation after the presentation of all the budgets, of if we do actually want to get to that 1 million goal, what does that actually entail? And I have a feeling it might be looking at doing cuts that are more substantive than kind of what we've heard tonight. And we need to, if we want to go down that route, we need to be prepared for the cost of that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand. So we have a potential possible target of a 1 mil increase. And we also have a target of 1 million to not use as far as, it's not a either or, it's an and, right?
Well, right now, our projected mill increase is 1.9-ish? What's the-
Approximately 2 if we didn't
2,
make any changes in expenditures or revenues.
So essentially,
mean-
it's the 2.7 million. If we were to reduce that by $1 million, it'd be 1.7 million, which is the same as last year, to try to stay kind of on par with the last year's budget.
The current budget has already done that. So if you put it back in, that would, that $1 million would land us at the approximate 1.3 or less than 1.5 mil. But without doing that, it's over 2 right now.
Right, so you're saying we can, we have the choice to approve the budget as it is with a 2 mil increase, or make cuts of $1 million or more, or less, or use money from the fund balance, which we want to try not to do, right?
You have options of any of, and all of those, and it's most likely, I would assume, a combination.
Right.
But that's up to you
Okay.
ultimately, once you're provided the options.
And hopefully, I spoke with the auditor and provided him some additional information today, that when I return after the Munis conference, that I will be able to get and narrow him down to a much more detailed fund balance. That's imperative while you're making those decisions, that you know where you stand.
Right.
At the end of the prior year, and we know what we injected in the current year. We won't know what's going to happen in this year till after it closes.
Right.
So that's still going to be an estimated number you're basing next year's upon. But it'll be much more solid that we have the audit for the FY25 year.
Yeah, I was wondering when we would see that. That will be in the next month or so? Okay. Yeah, I think I think it's good to hear from all the departments before we start slicing and dicing, but $1 million we're a long way off from, and I do appreciate that, how hard it is to shave these budgets down. They're pretty lean as it is, so, with all the contractual obligations, but, yep.
Rest assured that the things that were mentioned as possible revenues or cuts will be tracked, so that when the time is right, we will put those in front of you so you can see them tallied and see which you agree with or which you want to revise.
Yeah, because there was a lot tonight about, well, we've taken this out or we're going to, and it wasn't clear what was in and out, so.
Yep. And it's
Much
just the first
appreciated.
meeting, so we'll get more and more clarification as we move on in the coming meetings.
Okay, wonderful.
All right, well, with that, have a great night.